A year later, King would write, "While the question of who killed President Kennedy is important, the question what killed him is more important. It is a climate where men express their disagreement through violence and murder. It is the same climate that murdered Medgar Evers in Mississippi and 6 innocent children in Birmingham, Alabama. So in a sense, we are all participants in that horrible act that tarnished the image of our nation. We have created an atmosphere in which violence and hatred have become popular pastimes." Prophetically, King said of the assassination of Kennedy, "This is going to happen to me. I'll never see my 40th birthday." Soon, the most turbulent year in the civil rights movement would be over. Under the new president, Lyndon Johnson, America would become involved in a major war in Vietnam. The country would be divided as never before. New forces in the civil rights struggle would emerge, including many who thought King obsolete in his insistence on peaceful protest and his belief in the inevitable unity of all races in one brotherhood of man. But for Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement of which he was the conscience, the greatest achievements were yet to come.
His actions and protests, his courage to risk safety, and even to risk his life, have awakened the conscience of this nation.
Do you suffer from swelling or joint pain in your back, neck, knees, or elbows? Has the burden of pain taken over your quality of life? Don't give up and accept living a life with pain. If you are ready to find relief, try Omega XL.
Hi, my name is Blair Underwood. I've been in the movie and television business for over 30 years now. Being an actor in Hollywood is definitely glamorous. It also involves working 14, 15-hour days, walking nonstop around sets, and sometimes even jumping and running doing my own stunts when they let me. As you age, things start to feel different. Your body starts to ache. If inflammation settles in, so will pain. And I mean all kinds of pain. We're talking about muscle pain, joint pain, back pain, knee pain, hip pain, neck pain. When you're in pain, that's all you can think of. Since slowing down and stopping is not an option for me, I started taking Omega XL.
Hello, my name is Ken Mears. I'm the founder of Great Healthworks, the makers of Omega XL, the world's most powerful natural anti-inflammatory. It is derived from a greenlet mussel from the pristine waters of New Zealand. We believe there is no other product like it in the world. It's truly one of a kind. The greenlet mussel has an oil extract, and that oil is full of over 30 fatty acids.
This combination of fatty acids is not found anywhere else in any other product other than Omega XL. And it has been shown in clinical research to help with joint pain due to inflammation, which affects so many of us.
Join the millions of people who have found peace of mind with Omega XL, a natural drug-free alternative that has helped people relieve their pain for over 17 years, just as it has for trailblazing supermodel Beverly Johnson.
I was just in the film festival. You know, you have the fans out there waiting, and I literally would get out of the car and fake like my foot was asleep because I was so stiff I couldn't move. So when I started to feel those aches and pains that comes along with aging, I take my Omega XL. Every part of my life has changed dramatically. It's like I'm 20 years younger.
We all suffer from aches and pains, and now you have a natural way of dealing with it.
And what Omega XL does is it actually addresses the root cause of pain, which is inflammation. As you age, your body has a hard time producing anti-inflammatory substances. And where Omega XL comes in is that it really helps restore this natural anti-inflammatory state.
Omega XL can give you a chance to get back what pain and inflammation are taking away from you. It is not a pain block. It's not a pharmaceutical drug. It's small, it's easy to swallow, no aftertaste. This is real science, real studies. This product works.
Omega XL is a natural, powerful anti-inflammatory. It will help you deal with daily aches and pains and help you get back to work, do the things you love to do.
There's one thing that I love more than anything, and it's to play golf. I have found my passion in life. I've had this problem with my shoulder. I started to take Omega XL, and then slowly but surely, my shoulder. I have total range of motion. It's unbelievable.
Pain caused by inflammation is real and can affect anybody, especially if you're doing any kind of manual labor, work on your feet, lifting, carrying, toting. Let's watch some amazing stories about people who are now living a better life with Omega XL.
The pain was very difficult. I take Omega XL and I feel like a brand new individual.
Really felt the pain. I mean, in my ankles and in my heels. I just can't tell you how bad that pain was. I found this product and it's called Omega XL. You can get that joy back in your life. I mean, even just going for a walk.
Omega XL has given me my life back. I would definitely recommend Omega XL because it works.
I'm so relieved to have the Omega XL in my life. I started noticing that I could go up and down the stairs, which I thought that I couldn't do anymore.
Everything that I have to do during the day is painless. It really does work.
You don't need to live in pain. Inflammation is controllable, it can be managed, and it's fixable.
Definitely a product that I'll be taking for the rest of my life. Omega XL works.
Call now or go to OmegaXLNow.com. Buy 1 bottle of Omega XL and get another absolutely free. That's 2 bottles for only $39.95. Enroll in our convenient monthly auto ship and you'll save up to 30% on future orders. And it's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee.
Don't slow down, and definitely don't stop living. Overcome pain, just like I did with Omega XL.
Order Omega XL today and save.
President Johnson, a Southerner, was much cooler toward King and the civil rights agenda than Kennedy had been. But he pledged to complete Kennedy's work on the Civil Rights Act. He knew even better than Kennedy how to achieve consensus on legislation.
There have been many pressures upon your president, and there will be others as the days come and go. But I pledge you tonight that we intend to fight this battle where it should be fought, in the courts, and in the Congress, and in the hearts of men.
One of Johnson's first and greatest achievements was passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This bill was the most important civil rights legislation signed into law since the 15th Constitutional Amendment of 1870. It guaranteed the right to vote to all male citizens without regard to race, color, or previous enslavement. The new federal law of 1964 prohibited discrimination for reasons of color, race, religion, or national origin in public schools and employment. Dr. King, for his leadership, was named Time Magazine's 1964 Man of the Year. And later in 1964, he became the youngest person ever to win the Nobel Prize for Peace. But passage of the Civil Rights Act did not mean that the struggle was over. Violence against the movement continued to rage. Bombings, burnings, and killings were regular events throughout the South. In August 1964, 3 civil rights workers were murdered on their first day in Mississippi. James Chaney was 21. Michael Schwerner was 24. Andrew Goodman was only 20. Years later, a sheriff and 6 others would be found guilty of the 3 slayings, but only after King had published an expose of the pattern of murder and official conspiracy in Mississippi. Television news brought the drama of the investigation and the heartbreak of the discovery of the murders into the homes of millions. As more white victims began to fall in the struggle for freedom, more of white America began to take serious notice. For Martin Luther King, winning the world's most respectable prize, the Nobel, did not mean he was about to retire to the life of an elder statesman. In May 1964, he was arrested during a demonstration in St. Augustine, Florida. There would be more arrests on behalf of the cause.
We go into the jails of Jackson, Mississippi, and transform these jails from dungeons of shame to havens of freedom and human dignity. I know sometimes how discontent we get, and we have a right to get discontent, and how frustrated we get in the process sometimes. But I submit to you this evening that this way of nonviolence will help us not to seek to rise from a position of disadvantage to one of advantage, thus subverting justice. And we will not substitute one tyranny for another. For black supremacy is as dangerous as white supremacy.
But many in the civil rights movement were not as forgiving as King, and they were becoming increasingly impatient. Malcolm X was growing in stature, and more people were responding to his message of black nationalism or black separatism. A new generation of leaders such as Stokely Carmichael, H. Rap Brown, Bobby Seale, and Huey Newton were eager for more decisive change, and they often expressed their anger at the continuing outrages through a call to take up arms. In 1964, for the first time, King experienced violence directed against him by blacks, as he had many times by whites. During an appearance in Harlem, he was assaulted by black Muslims, though King realized consensus in the movement would be increasingly difficult to achieve. He pressed on with his program of civil disobedience, peaceful resistance, and what he called non-cooperation with evil. And where many of the more militant factions were speaking of whites as the enemy, King repeatedly insisted that the brotherhood of man transcended all races, religions, political, social, and economic differences. After passage of the Civil Rights Act, King's next major objective was the achievement of full voting rights. In Alabama, only 1 out of every 100 black residents was able to register to vote. This was due to a testing scheme similar to grandfather clauses and poll taxes, which were rigged by state and local government officials. Thus, it was almost impossible for blacks to register.
I want to be the president who helped to end hatred among his fellow men, and who promoted love among the people of all races and all regions and all parties.
To call attention to Alabama's voting rights inequities, King decided to lead a march from Selma to the Capitol in Montgomery. As usual, the authorities unwittingly aided his cause by forbidding the march. In early February 1965, after a voting rights demonstration, King was arrested again. A week later, he met with President Johnson to urge passage of national voting rights legislation. While King was in jail, Malcolm X visited Coretta King in a show of support. Both King and Malcolm knew that if the nonviolent movement did not succeed, the alternative would be militancy. However, on February 21st, 1965, Malcolm X was assassinated in New York City. The militant faction of the civil rights movement had its first martyr. Perhaps Alabama's white population was encouraged by the murder of an important black leader. Many whites were frightened at the prospect of the black majority voting sympathetic leaders into office. An attempted march from Selma to Montgomery was met with massive police resistance, arrests, violence, and the murder of a white clergyman. The marchers turned back. As before, every assault and death focused more national attention on Selma.
What happened in Selma was an American tragedy. The blows that were received, the blood that was shed, the life of the good man that was lost, must strengthen the determination of each of us to bring full and equal and exact justice to all of our people.
Dr. King himself received many death threats during this period. But he said he would rather die on the highways of Alabama than make a butchery of his conscience. As the demonstrators prepared for another march to present demands to Governor George Wallace, President Johnson lobbied Congress in favor of the voting rights bill. Finally, under federal protection, the march was able to proceed over 5 days to the Alabama state capitol. There, King told tens of thousands of supporters that the battle is in our hands.